1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some Faceit League action. We are here with our second and final match of the night. We just finished up with a 3-1 over in South America. Goodfellas getting the win over Faca. And now, here in North America, we're taking a look at two teams who not having the best start of the season as you would hope. We got Kintsugi and Shikigami going at it. And Dex, it's personally our first look at Kintsugi, but the Shikigami team saw a lot of them last season, have seen a bit of them so far this season, and unfortunately, it's looking pretty similar to how their last season started out.
Yeah, their last season started off not the best. The end of the season was by far maybe one of the best that we saw in the Faceit Masters tier in NA last season. However, I mean, coming into this game right now, Hunter, this is a very, very important game for Shikigami. You could say the same thing for Kintsugi as well, but this is only their 5th game. For Shikigami, this would be their 8th, and a loss tonight would basically mean, at least from what I'm seeing, they would have to really win out at giving themselves a shot at making the playoffs here. Shikigami comes into this game 1-6 so far on the season. Kintsugi 1-3. If you look at the current standings, they are, let's just say they're towards the bottom. Not necessarily where either of the teams really want, but for Kintsugi, considering they have a couple more games yet to play, you can always see them bounce back here. And granted, 3 of their 4 losses have came to teams that, 3 of their losses. So all 3 of their losses so far came against teams that if playoffs start today, they would be in the playoffs. And their one win actually comes against a team who's currently sitting in the top 4 in Hive Mind. Shikigami, though, 8th game of the season for them. They really need to bounce back here. Granted, though, Hunter, you told me just before we came live here that their last game against Boom Troop, they took them all the way the distance of 5 maps. So maybe Shikigami figured something out here, and we're going to see a new and improved Shikigami team here tonight.
Yeah, you want to hope that if you are a Shikigami fan, because again, this probably is the bounce back they are required to have if they want any chance of qualifying for top 8. Because the scary part is if they keep going this trend, the factor is no longer going to be, hey, we need to get top 8. It's, hey, we need to stay out of the bottom 4 so we don't have to fight for our lives to stay in the Masters tier and potentially go back down to Expert. That's the same thing that Amplify had to go through last season, where they managed to requalify, get back in, and stay in the Master tier. But when it comes to this Kintsugi squad, if they manage to get a win here, I think they have a very particular schedule in front of them, and it's not necessarily easy. They will have Amplify, which is definitely doable, but you have teams like Alternate, Extinction Zero, Midori, Daystar. That is a rough run, and the worst part about that is that all those games are going to happen in the span of a single week. They are playing 6 games ranging from today to the following Wednesday. A lot can change with this team. We could be looking at a week from now, and this team is freaking like 6-3 for all we know. You never know. But also, They could end up, 2-7 for all we know.
Yeah, I mean, all I gotta say is we saw a lot last season. We're already seeing a lot this season. Master tier is unpredictable. There's no easy games, but there are a lot of hard games. It doesn't matter who you're going up against. It could be the best team. It could be the worst team. You are going to get a very, very hard game every time, even if it ends in a 3-0 sweep. However, for both these two teams, they're really looking to right the ship so far this season. And like we kind of mentioned, right now they're towards the bottom of the standings. A win here tonight will really propel both these teams up a little bit. And I'm looking at this as more of a bigger game for Shikigami. A win here tonight probably gives them a lot more confidence going into what is the back half of their season at this point, with tonight being their 8th game.
Yeah, definitely a lot more pressure on them in this situation right here to be able to bounce back and make something happen. Because we said it before, we'll probably end up saying it a dozen more times during this stream. It's going to be really tough to pull back if they can't do it against a team like Kintsugi, who has definitely proved they have the ability to fight back, but also has proved they can't necessarily keep up right out the gate with some of the top teams we have here. But we'll see what it's going to be like here, as we know our first map, Dex, is going to be going to Oasis, which seems to be the common pick this season.
Yeah, especially in NA, I mean, and South America as well. We did see our first, or not our first, but first in a while with Ilios being a map that we did see down in South America earlier tonight. But right now, I mean, this is a map where you see a lot. It allows a lot of different play styles. But granted, that's just what Control is. You can play any kind of play style on all the maps here and find a great amount of success on it. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Hazard could come out, Winston, Diva, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, Ramatra, Orisa, Drunken Queen, Zarya could come out. It doesn't necessarily matter what you could see at the tank line. DPS lines, I feel like outside of a couple heroes here and there, you kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, I think you definitely know to expect those as well. I think, especially going into the ban phase we're getting into, I think a lot of these tend to be expected. I think we've fallen back into a similar trend we had last season, where it was the same like 5 or 6 characters that seem to be in rotation that get banned very heavily. I think Baptiste has really heavily fallen into that category. I think Hazard's fallen into that category. I think even Freya has kind of stayed in that category a little bit here. Cassidy has jumped back in and out. Going to this first map of Oasis, honestly, the thing that wouldn't surprise me right out the gate is if we saw a Baptiste ban. Because Baptiste, as we've seen in many examples of the past and the present, can be extremely strong in a map on Oasis.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we've seen BAP come out a decent amount of first maps all for the last couple NA series, I believe, which surprises at first, but as we're starting to see it more, it's not that big of a surprise. However, Hunter, you're laughing because, yeah, I understand why you're laughing. Lifeweaver is our first ban coming out from Shikigami. Kintsugi now has the next one, and I mean, banning out Lifeweaver basically is kind of looked at as, especially on a map like this, where it's like, it's not. It could be a protection ban coming out from them, but this early on in the series, I don't necessarily know if you really need a protection ban.
I think it's fair enough if it was a protection ban, honestly, because Lifeweaver is a very particular character, which Lifeweaver's not a bad character by any means. It's still picked a pretty decent amount by a lot of teams out there. But particularly in this situation right here, I would consider this to be a protection right here. But you also don't want to get rid of something that you might want to use later down the line. I don't know what they're necessarily protecting or what they might be running that perhaps, Kintsugi isn't going to be ready for. Either way, we'll see what the case is going to be as we're waiting for the ban from Kintsugi. Of course, they got to pick either a tank or a DPS.
I mean, if you're looking at DPS, you leave a lot on the table, like you talked about. You get run those hit scans, whether it be Cass, Freya, Soj, Ashe, potentially maybe not the best map for Ashe, but still you can see the Ashe come out here. Tanks, you're probably looking at Hazard, Orisa, potentially Wrecking Ball if you don't necessarily want to deal with that. But I have a bigger concern going on in this series.
What's that bigger concern, good sir? I gotta know. I gotta know the details.
I don't know if one of the teams is here.
I think you would think there are, because it'd be really scary if they weren't here. Because I gotta say, I don't care how bad your season starts right now. I don't think if there is one team that's not here.
There's still a lot ahead.
Yeah, there's still plenty of time still. You gotta figure it out. Both teams have substitutes. Both can still be figuring something out. Z Panther is someone that we have seen in quite a few times. Have been on Shikigami this whole time. They've kind of been an in and out sort of player, but I think we're impressive in their own right. But yeah, minute 40 left. Still currently, no lineup has been fully locked in.
Yeah, but just going back into this here, I mean, we've seen a lot of the Shikigami team in the past, especially last season, where they really did turn it on. And essentially, it's just they brought everyone back. The only addition was they added Ewan in here, who is a really good player in their own right. But so far, it just hasn't seemed like Shikigami got off to the start they were really looking for. And looking over at Kintsugi here, Hunter, I mean, I recognize a decent amount of a lot of these players here. I feel like we've seen a lot of these players in CGL. I mean, there's Lich there, Winters, Santana, Hutch. I think the only one I really don't recognize is April. So this is a team of players that we definitely know a decent amount about.
Yeah, 100%. And still sitting.
Like SpongeBob matching icons, though.
It is honestly pretty funny. You love to see it. As again, 45 seconds left. Still, nothing sitting by. As things are definitely getting a little questionable. Obviously, we don't know for sure. Maybe they're buying time for someone to show up, figure things out a little bit more, because you are allowed to use that whole 3 minutes. It's just something that teams might be pulling out. But Dex, I think it's a situation where we're going to find out in about 30 seconds what the situation is.
Yeah, which is not a fun thing
No.
Here. But I mean, right now, again, Kintsugi, again, this is only their 5th game of the season, in a little bit of a better spot, even though they only have 1 win. Compare that to a team like Shikigami. We do have our second ban. It is actually going to be Diva here for them as we wait for the teams to join up. And it seems like everyone is here for both these teams at least. So yeah, Kintsugi here, only way on 1 player. So we're going to be heading in here to our first map relatively soon, Hunter.
Yeah, and hey, thank goodness for that. I was a little scared for a moment there. I was like, please, no. We had to swap games, and we picked the one game that didn't happen. But no, it's looking like we're just waiting on J-Man to get in here. J-Man, which we have seen and heard a lot from over the course of the last season and a half. Obviously, I'm gonna be real on chat, ladies and gentlemen. There's no bias here whatsoever, but I am a J-Man stan. I gotta support them. Gotta do what I gotta do. The GOAT is trying to do something good for them, but the Shikigami team needs to be able to bounce back, and honestly, one of the biggest factors of this squad that needs to help with this bounce back is going to be J-Man.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about J-Man a lot in the past, and you said yourself, you're a little bit of a stan.
A little bit.
I don't know if I would go that far, but I like J-Man as a player. J-Man's been very outright with how he feels like he's playing, but I don't ever think it's been a J-Man problem the couple times we've been able to see Shikigami throughout this entire season. But right now, I mean, coming out of the gate, looks like it's going to be hazards for both sides. And Hunter, I think we're just going to end up seeing a mirror match here. We're seeing a lot of this dual flex DPS come out for teams here, where you're playing the Tracer and Genji, especially a lot in OWCS in Japan and Korea. It's not a big surprise that you're seeing that kind of come across the pond here, come across the Pacific Ocean here to NA as well.
Yeah, 100%. Both teams are going to do the same exact thing. Go to the top. J-Man Winter currently sitting over on the Tracer. Crazy Cat, Ewan, Winter, all former members of that Amplify squad as well. Going at it here today. J-Man been on Shikigami for as long as I can possibly remember. Gonna see how both sides want to be able to get this one started out the gate. As currently, seems to be Shikigami rallying for high ground control. You're gonna see April forced around. Eventually, Ewan getting that final blow, clearing them away. And now Kintsugi just going to rally for the point as much as they possibly can, but without that additional speed, making any assassination happen is just going to be difficult.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, this is the exact start you were really looking for if you were Shikigami. Just needing to get control of the point here first, and right now, just got to get the team fight under your belt here. Each team's going to be coming in here looking for just a good opening, and right now, Shikigami playing very, very smart and making sure they're not leaving anyone out by themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Looking for the assassination. Cleanse comes out. Lich in super deep. A little too deep, it looks like, as everyone's going to feed themselves to the wolves. Is going to see that end pretty quickly. Everybody getting a little piece of the pie as once again Kintsugi forced back.
And a team kill right there. Again, Shikigami, this is what you need. You need to have a good start. I feel like in a lot of these series we've seen from them, they normally struggle coming out of the gate, and right now a good start here is really giving them a lot of confidence in this one here. Kintsugi, though, they're coming up with some ultimates here, so I would not be surprised if you're going to see something come out here very quickly. Winter not that far away from a pulse bomb, especially on someone like that Tracer on the other side, or potentially the Lucio. It could be something that really opens up a lot here for Kintsugi.
Yeah, and Aurora getting forced out of that fight. You see all the pressure. J-Man, unfortunately, going to go down. Trying to just cause a lot of pressure on the point. Doesn't quite happen. Now Aurora separated from the rest of the squad. Beats handily ready to go. Unfortunately, not going to get any utility out of it. Everybody eventually going to go and die on this point. And now with both Kitsunes out, we're going to go into this next fight. 8 ultimates total on the table, and I could see most of them being used in this next one.
I feel like all of them are going to be used here. The only reason you don't use one is if you win the fight very early on here. Winter has that pulse bomb ready to go early on. I thought that would be something we'd see last fight, but no, held on to it really good. Could see it comboed with Santana here when that downpour comes out just to confirm 1 kill. Ewan, though, we have to watch out for these beasts. We saw an Ajax in South America. We're not going to see an Ajax in April just yet, but Ewan still on the table.
You almost cursed Ewan. I'm just saying right now, Ewan got super low right there. And eventually Boop comes through. Winter can't get back up, so now things are to go back the other way. J-Man, unfortunately, has a pulse bomb, but it's not going to find anything. We see the finish off coming through, hoping to make that flip become official. J-Man is still hanging around, though, but is going to have to back out, and is going to be lucky to get out of here alive.
And almost getting the flip right there. That would have been huge for Shikigami, considering that, I mean, you use your own beat. April's gonna come back in with their own beat as well. Still, Winter holding on to that pulse bomb. They're waiting for a good opportunity here. And at this point, I feel like they're just holding on to it as more of a deterrent, waiting to find someone off on their own so that Suzu from the other side will not cleanse it out here.
Yeah, the problem is you have to eventually go and be aggressive. And here we go. Aggression off gate. Ewan being taken care of quickly. Blade coming through from Manhu, who wants to try to pull this one back. Unfortunately, is just that did not go to plan, ladies and gentlemen. J-Man make a health pack taken, but still gonna get out the telltale.
That's just unfortunate there. I mean, the blade came out, and you kind of saw them just accept their fate right there when Genji just wouldn't climb the wall. Like, that was a weird little, I think, glitch bug we saw there where it just kind of stayed on the ground. Now you're in final fight territory here for Shikigami, especially after the good start you had. I mean, it just seems like Kintsugi came back in, was able to stabilize, and now Shikigami really looking for some opening. Winter, though, Pulse Bomb, though, has been ready for a while. Now's probably the good time to use it, especially finding out one on the other side.
Yeah, he gets Kobe'd up in the air. Doesn't stick on anybody. Now Crazy Cat has the Kintsugi ready to go, and it might be just in time as Aurora gonna find one. Unfortunately, no heals left around them. Yuan taking care of Anhu. Only one there. A little bit of tactical crouch for good measure, as Anhu's not gonna make it back to the point. J-Man just a little shy of getting there, and that's gonna be first round going to Kintsugi. And it looked like a good start for Shikigami as well. Unfortunately, as soon as they lost momentum, it became really difficult for them to get it back.
Yeah, they just weren't able to find any good openings either. That was another big thing. They had a hard time just getting through chokes, and anytime they did, it seemed like they were just kind of playing right into what Kintsugi wanted them to play into. Now, as you go over to this map here, you really just have to try to figure something out. A little bit more viable spots to get through, and not as, well, it's still the same amount of chokes, but still, there's easier ways to get into the point this time around from them. And, I mean, you're looking, each team going to be swapping to Symmetra here for a brief moment, then back over to the Tracer. But if you're Shikigami, you just need to get off to that hot start here, and then just keep up that momentum, keep up that tempo, because once you lost it, like you said, Hunter, they were never really able to get it back here. They're already at a point, and Aurora trying to find an early pick.
Yeah, kind of waiting for that moment to be able to cut off Winter there. Probably try to get the instant assassination, or maybe even just force a recall, so it makes it a little bit easier for J-Man to do his job. But for the time being, both teams trying to hold on their areas. Hutch getting down to nearly 1 health, has to TP out of there. As Aurora, awkward scenario to be in right now. The rest of the squad got to try to back them up as Kintsugi holding on to the point securely. Yuan, J-Man both getting severely low. Yuan, though, gonna be the first one to fall over. Kintsugi should have this secured in the bag for this first fight. Aurora, though, does manage to get one in the chamber, but Anhu also back as Crazy Cat manages to live. Dex, this isn't over quite, and as a matter of fact, you were seeing the takeovers. Anhu gets another, and this is a massive clutch coming here, potentially, from this squad.
Again, kind of started that Shikigami needed here. All you need to do now is just clean up the fight, cap the point, and just start building up that percentage. Getting rid of those two players right there is huge, especially with Ewan being the one to kill him out there. A great first fight and great plays coming out from both Aurora and Anhu there to really do a lot, but I feel like you really have to give a lot of credit to the Kiriko there for Shikigami, just making sure those two members were able to keep themselves alive for as long as they did here. Perks online, though, for everyone, so it's going to be very, very fun to see here what's going to be the entry point here for both these teams. Crazy Cat, though, not that far away from their own Kitsune rush here. I would not be surprised if the moment they get that, they really use it just to try to keep this momentum and pace up, because Shikigami, when they have this momentum, like we kind of said after the first point, they were able just to do whatever they want to do. Once they lost it, though, they looked completely lost.
Yeah, true. A free flip comes through, by the way, 32% on the board, and now these are going to get difficult. City Rush activated. Hutch doesn't have theirs online, as Anhu going to get one. Pulse Bomb out, not going to find any measure whatsoever. Aurora does go down, so this isn't over yet. Lich has got rid of 2. Pulse Bomb could be ready for J-Man, as they might have to try to clutch this one up. It's just the DPS standing by, and J-Man's got to back out, and it's the little things like that, giving up the point without even a fight.
I mean, I understood why they do it, and we see it a lot. Teams give up the point to try to win a quick fight right after. And hey, they got off to a great start, but one thing went wrong, and it was just downhill from there, though. However, if you're Shikigami, you're not in the worst spot here. You have Blade, you have Beat, you have Pulse Bomb. You're not that far away from Downpour, but now you have to deal with the Downpour from the other side. The Suzu actually huge there.
Massive, lets you get rid of that Beat for free, essentially, as it's just basically going to cause things to mellow back out after these 4 ultimates are gone. It's Anhu and Lich. It's going to come down to who is going to have the better blade. The problem is, though, Aurora has that extra tool to be able to potentially shut down Lich.
Right now, I mean, if you are Shikigami, you really need to get something going. The blade, though, coming out here.
Ooh, it's getting close. It's trying to chase him down. Gets booped away, as now a free flip the other way here. Satana, though, has gotten rid of J-Man, and it's not looking like this is going to be a very long-standing hold, as Aurora being taken care of, as they're going to go back and flip this, maybe getting about an extra 13-14%.
I mean, you'll take that, though. You just want to make sure you're slowing down the bleeding here. You have to deal with the Beat coming into this next fight here. Well, you are decently far away from, you're decently close to some other stuff ready to go here for Shikigami, but you're gonna have to deal with a beat and a pulse bomb coming out at some point from Kintsugi, who has really turned it on here now. We're going back to what we were talking about the first point, where Shikigami kind of just lost all the momentum. They need to be able to win a definite team fight out here, and I think you would see them go right back to how they were playing at the start of these first 2 points.
Yeah, I'm causing a bunch of separation. Crazy Cat in a weird situation, eventually be able to get out, but unfortunately, their entire team's gonna collapse from underneath them, and now with 90% on the board, it is just J-Man hiding around as J-Man does, but honestly, he's in the optimal position to get back to point, but they have to get there now. They have to start going now, and they're gonna touch barely in time with the recall, but the question is, can there be another?
Ball coming out, so there will be another here, and right now, if you're Shikigami, you're looking for everyone else to get here in time. You got to deal with the pulse bomb and probably some other ultimates coming up here for Kintsugi, but you are all back now, so you're still in this fight, but losing Tracer is not who you wanted to lose first.
Nah, not at all. I'm whipped around right now. You're trying to cause as much chaos as you can right now. If you are Aurora, the problem is everybody still has to be able to survive. Considering Rush going to be active on the line, going to be able to help create a little bit more chaos. And you're trying to cause some kind of flip here, something to go wrong as April getting super low. Downpours here, going to come down. It's going to catch on to a whopping 0 people, unfortunately. This is still a live fight right now. Shikigami keeping themselves in it. Nice boop. Sitting on one is Santana, and it looks like the clutch is coming on to form. Shikigami gonna keep themselves alive here.
When in doubt, sometimes you just gotta pull the ball out, and right here, this was a great move by Shikigami. Again, I always call it a little bit of a chaos comp, because that's what Wrecking Ball is really good at, just causing so much disruption to the other team. Yeah, you're gonna have Kitsune Rush, you're gonna have Blade, but you have that beat from Ewan, who all they have to do is make sure they just get it off, and I feel like you're gonna be able to really survive the first part of this fight, and then you're gonna have ultimates of your own. That Minefield from Aurora and Anhu, not that far away from their own Blade, should really help you out a lot here, especially if this fight goes long, Hunter. You could be staring at final fight.
Yeah, and right now, they're looking for Ewan right now. They know Ewan has the speed. You can get rid of Ewan in time. You can do it. It's going to go out just in time, though. Perfect timing overall. Jamin, though, has already been sliced away, and now as the support's gone, the clutch might end up meaning Diddly Squad. Everybody getting close to their ults, but it does not matter. Everybody's dead. Team kill there. It's going to be a 2-0 for Kintsugi, taking our first map away. Good fight back for Shikigami, but unfortunately, just having those ults a few seconds too late.
Yeah, Kintsugi, though, a really good first map for them. When they had that momentum, they really never gave it up. And, hey, a great start for them. Shikigami, they had their opportunities. Like we said, great performances coming out. J-Man getting play of the game here. But they had great performances come out from some players. But it just seemed like once they lost that momentum, it was very difficult for them to really keep it throughout this first map. Granted, only map 1 of what could be a very long series, as these two teams seem very close to each other.
Yeah, no, they definitely seem close to each other. And overall, I like the way both these teams ended up playing. It didn't feel like there was a definitive weak member, because we've seen other series where we had that in our brains as, this person keeps getting picked off early, this person, that person. That didn't really end up being the situation in the scenario right here. People still definitely got picked off early, a time or two, but I think it's better when we have this level of consistency between these teams and the way they try to play this game. And I like the way they have the styles as well. It's not like before we had two very different styles trying to run into each other. It was pretty much the same exact thing going back and forth, minus the swaps that came through for stall.
Yeah, and I thought the Wrecking Ball worked very good for Shikigami, but I feel like once you saw Kintsugi really engage back into that fight, that beat needed to come out. It just needed to come out a little bit at all there from Ewan. But right now, I mean, Shikigami, again, you're kind of staring down your entire season, really, this series, unless a big turnaround happens for them. And like I said, it was a close first map, but you could really start to tell when Kintsugi really got comfortable on each point, because after they got comfortable, Shikigami really struggled to find really anything. And the only time that they were able to get Kintsugi out of the comfortability is when that Wrecking Ball did come out from Aurora, just disrupted a little bit, but it was only one fight that it really did its job.
Yeah, unfortunately, it ended up being the case. So I'm curious to see how it's going to change around, because Shikigami clearly has a boon to work with within this fight. Question is how they're going to be able to turn around, and the place they're going to be able to try to turn it around is going to be Runasapi taking it over to push, likely going to see a Brawl v Brawl situation come out here, and all likeliness the hazard could definitely still exist, and I don't think a hazard was a problem for either team. I think it was relatively even in the tank game. The question is, what do you think, perhaps outside of that, was the biggest crux in terms of, was my Genji better than your Genji? Was our Kiri better than your Kiri? So on and so forth.
Well, I think at this map, you're really just looking more at who are you going to ban for potentially just to protect or just because you don't want to see him on this map? Could you see Queen be banned out? Could you see Wrecking Ball be banned out? Because, hey, in the short amount of time that we saw Aurora play the Wrecking Ball, I thought it was really good. However, Shikigami going to make sure we're not seeing the Ana. So that could be kind of telling us which way they want to go, potentially with a certain tank or with a certain DPS line here, because no Ana means you could really see still Hazard, still maybe something like Orisa, Wrecking Ball, Malga. I mean, no Ana really opens up a lot of that tank pool to really come out here.
It really does. It gets rid of potential Ana break combos as well, which we have seen on occasion on a map like this. But this opens up the door, like you said. We could have the Cure Lucio come back out. We could have a Baptiste Lucio come out here. We could have Break Juno even. We saw that in our last series in South America come out for a brief period of time. The door is still very much open for a lot of compositions, but you lose out on some of that good CC like the nade, like the sleep, that we found was honestly really clutch in that last matchup in a lot of forms. So I'm curious to see what the vote's going to be. Obviously, we're not going to find out for a minute, as we're going to see if lineups are going to finalize. Again, we do know Z Panther does come in from time to time. Question of if they will come in here will be answered momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, if Z Panther is going to come in, I feel like now probably would be the right time to do it. I think having subs between maps 1 and maps 2 never necessarily hurts. But at the same time, if you feel like your team right now is very confident with the 5 you have in, leave them in. Keep them going. Because that wasn't a bad map for Shikigami. It was just, like we kind of mentioned, once they lost momentum, it was very hard for them to really get it back. And it really did make it to where that Wrecking Ball spot we saw there towards the very end of that second point was the only time they were ever able to really get Kintsugi kind of out of their comfort zone again. Kintsugi, when they're not in their comfort zone, necessarily doesn't find a lot of value or find a lot of good team fight victories there. So, I mean, I think if you're Shikigami, you know what you have to do here. You always have to be making sure that Kintsugi is just not getting comfortable in any of these maps here.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I'm curious to see how the process of the series is going to go down, because this is a series that Everright has a reason to be a long one. But the amount of times I feel like I've said that and it not actually go to fruition is more than I would like to count, and that's a little disappointing in some forms. But
get that phrase out of your vocabulary.
You know what? I haven't said it that much. You know, we'll figure that out later. All right. What I do know for now, though, is we're waiting for these lineups to still finalize, figure things out. We know last time pretty much all of the time ended up being taken away, so we'll see what changes. Honestly, if you're taking this time to strategize, to figure out further, you're given this time to essentially do so. So cannot blame them for using the timer.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, I'm just taking a look at the stats here. I mean, it's very even across the board. The only thing that you can really kind of take a look at is, you know, the eliminations and deaths. I mean, Kintsugi, everyone had less eliminations. Less deaths, more eliminations, which makes a lot of sense. But like, you look at that support line there, Crazy Cat and Ewan really did keep up with Hutch and April throughout the majority of that map there. It was just the difference of a couple deaths here or there that really allowed, I think, that support line for Kintsugi to just get a little bit more healing out there compared to their counterparts on the other side, which even when I'm looking at that stats there, like, it looks like they're really about the same, about 14k healing across the board. Honestly, about 14,500 healing across the board. So not that much of a difference. But right now, I mean, Kintsugi, I think you're finding a lot more success at that DPS line. I think Winter and Lich have been just a little bit more consistent in the early part. J-Man still did a lot that last map, just wasn't necessarily enough to get their team over the hump. Anhu has done a good job as well so far. But again, just comparing them across to the other team, you're starting to see slight differences here and there.
Yeah, you definitely are starting to see those differences come through. And we'll see if the differences are going to change even more as we have our second ban coming through here. Kintsugi gonna get rid of the Orisa here. So this is an interesting ban because it's a pretty simple ban overall as to what it is, because it's Orisa. Orisa's suppressive. Fair. The question is this to open up the door to keep the Hazard in play and not have a counter setting by? Is this, hey, we want to bring out Ramatra without letting one of the big counters in? There's a few things that this could legitimately mean. But I think relatively, it's a pretty safe ban.
Yeah, no, it is a relatively a very safe ban here, especially with Ana already being banned out. I felt like that really did allow Orisa to kind of come in here and potentially have a big kind of point in this map as being the tank to go to. However, I think getting rid of the Orisa, that really brings just back out. You really want to see that hazard mirror here again from both sides. And hey, coming out of the gate, we're seeing that hazard mirror from both sides. And I believe also outside of that, we're really not seeing any big swaps from either side because, I mean, remember, it was Lifeweaver and Freya banned out map 1?
It ended up being Lifeweaver and Diva taking map 1. And now...
Yeah, Lifeweaver and Diva, who, I mean, you could see, it makes sense to see Diva a little bit on Oasis, but it doesn't make sense to see Diva here. So really, it's not a big surprise that you're seeing teams really make bans to just try to make sure you're not getting into a certain composition here. Now, though, you're seeing the same exact thing again, which if you're Kintsugi, you're loving that you're seeing this mirror.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely loving it in a scenario like this. You're going back out, you're basically trying to play the exact same style that you played before, which while it did have its back and forth, we saw those advantages come through as Santana gonna look for the assassination, cause a little bit of separation, nobody going down quite yet. Definitely some people going low, like Anhu getting extremely low, has a mega health pack, gets thrown away off the edge, but still managed to recover, but everybody is getting extremely low. Anhu eventually assassinated. Aurora cut off of the rest of their squad as J-Man gonna try to help clutch up a little bit. Unfortunately, Santana is just gonna keep cutting away. Oh, bye.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, it's still kind of even across the board, but you're gonna be able to just see this team just kind of really take control of the bot now and keep going here. And this is, again, a good start here for Kintsugi as they just now get this early lead. And Hunter, a lot of the times on this map, we do see that, I mean, whoever wins the first fight normally gets the first checkpoint within 2.5 minutes of the map really opening up, but it's what happens after that first checkpoint is captured. However, if you see Shikigami come back in, win the team fight, you really don't have to worry about giving up the first point just yet. And I like how they're doing this. They're just waiting for each team to really make that first move here, as the Tracers, they're off in their own world dueling each other.
Yeah, that is a scenario at hand right here, but currently just seeing the competition over on this corner, holding it down. Honestly, you're not really complaining if you're Kintsugi in this situation right now. You're happy to sit here for as long as you desire, but eventually someone is going to have to take initiation, and Shikigami is going to get forced in that position with the Kitsune Rush. It's going to get carried out by both sides. You're going to see everything being thrown in there on who already taken care of. Crazy Cat, rough scenario as Lich helping clear out House. Bot, though, is stolen away for the moment, as you're going to see the recall come through, is going to die. And with that right there, they get caught in Aurora's respawn timer, which means they get to re-engage for checkpoints.
Yeah, I mean, a huge play right there, making sure that you are able to take that bot away. You're not going to give up the first checkpoint just yet. You have to rush to get back out here, though. That might be your only problem, so you might still end up giving it up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, right now, you're really trying to let some other ultimates build up, but it doesn't even seem like they're going to go for this first checkpoint contest here. They're just going to let them have it. Shikigami just trying to find some way to get back into this here. J-Man has the pulse bomb, and that's what you're really looking here to really try to find a pick potentially downpour, though, coming out from Santana.
Yeah, Santana going to get caught out. Beat activated. Ewan right around the corner from their own. Going to be able to get online, but Anhu unfortunately gets assassinated before it comes to form. And now Lich Blade sitting by. Unnecessary at this stage of the game. Boop comes through. Ewan going to get sliced and diced through. And it's, again, big time here as 75 meters is going to keep on growing.
And not necessarily the start you want to see here for Shikigami. You invested a lot in that last fight there and just didn't have anything go your way. Lich has his blade here ready to go. And you're going to have to deal with that blade right now.
Yeah, it doesn't really find a whole lot, but Winter still manages to catch on to Crazy Cat. They're thrown back, and now they just go back to the cart where Ewan goes to Souls for a little bit. Now we're going to 110 meters and counting, and this is getting extremely out of hand.
I mean, you're almost in final fight territory right here. The only thing that's going to make sure you probably not is just because you have such close spawns. A blade from Anhu is going to have to make a huge difference here. Still a lot of time in that time bank. So if you win a team fight, you really need to get going your own way. But dodging that pulse bomb is huge. However, Anhu does need some support before they pop his blade.
Yeah, because once that blade comes out, they are going to all turn towards that Genji. You see a cleanse. Waiting for it to come out, and here it goes, waiting momentarily. Hanyu hesitates momentarily and pulls it anyway. Got rid of one, needs to find at least one more to make this worthwhile, potentially. Ewan still hanging around. Even though they have, quote-unquote, lost this fight, they have probably gotten the pick necessary to regroup one more time and push him out.
Right now, though, Winter just doing work here, finding a lot of value. But like you said, Hunter, it's going to be one more fight here for Shikigami just to really make sure they don't allow this to be a full hold or full cap very quickly. But it actually just looks like Kintsugi's backing out here. They understand they don't really need to do anything else the rest of this map. Just take 50-50 fights. But one more good team fight win basically gets you the final checkpoint.
Yeah, but Anu going to get the assassination onto Lich. You're going to see that card be affected momentarily, but now you're being to trade out, which not a team can be really mad about if you're trading out, but this is ultimately just killing more and more time that Shikigami desperately needs.
Everyone getting back up to full health, and then again, it's just backing up. We're going to see this probably now for a lot of the time until they get really a team kill to get them back to that around the end of the map here. But again, you can take 50-50 maps. However, there's always a part of me that doesn't like this strategy, because if you give up a fight here, I mean, you're going to give up forward spawns. You do find one pick, but it's immediately traded out.
Yeah, April going to get assassinated, so it looks like potentially we have the shutdown around the corner. Everybody getting low, though. Ewan and Ahu literally sitting on a singular health in that moment. Aurora is in the same exact scenario. It feels like it should be in their favor, but they're going to be assassinated one by one. Anhu has to dart out of there, and the 50-50 stays in effect.
And again, I mean, without everyone here, I think they're just going to push it up to about right here and then just back out yet again. They want to win a full team fight without losing anyone. I think that will give them the momentum they really need to go into a final fight here. But I think everyone's back, so you have Downpour ready, throwing it out now. If you find a couple with it, this could be map. Yeah,
Ewan is taken down. No beat at the Exvenger. Sanhu tries to dash back through, and their own hazard blocked them away momentarily. They're stuck in a room as Downpour activated. Rough scenario for Crazy Guys. They're going to be caught out. J-Man not able to hit the pulse bomb stick either. Has to recall away. And it's Winter trying to chase them down, trying to take them out of effectiveness. But Beat does come out online. Going to create a little more sustainability. Unfortunately for Aurora, that is not the case. But J-Man hoping to keep the squad together, hoping to clutch it back up. But once again, 50-50 trade is Winter. I don't know if Winter has died here, as they're sitting on a 21-player kill streak now, and they may let it rise further.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Winter has yet to die this map, but with all their teammates dying around them, I think they might have to give that up here and now, and they are having their last stand moment here. Going to be able to find the pulse bomb stick, find one, and there goes their kill streak right there. But I mean, an incredible performance from Winter so far here, but if you're Shikigami, you still have some time here, but you have a long road to go, and it's just going to be difficult because, like we've mentioned, the 50-50 fights that Kintsugi can take here, they don't necessarily need to really worry about losing the forward spawns with such a lead.
Yep, Blade coming online for both squads right now. Anhu has already gotten rid of two. Trying to slice away his Lich, who just gets deleted immediately, and now you're seeing the fight trying to process back and forth. Tana's going to go down. Hutch and Winter hanging around over on the point. I should say Hutch more so, who's going to TP out. And if Hutch and Winter live here, everyone's going to get the forward spawns, and that could be really dangerous.
Hutch able to escape right there. Now they're just trying to use all their abilities. Wall climb Suzu. They have their other support right there to keep them up, and they've done it. They're going to be able to regroup with their team right there. I mean, that could have been a huge staggering pick right there that really gave Shikigami a lot of momentum. Downpour out, though. However, Shikigami does find first pick.
Yeah, but we're trading out Lucio's here now, which I'm not sure how to feel for either side right now, as Santana's able to get rid of one. Separation from Aurora. And we have a Kintsugi Rush activated away right now as Anhu's separated, and this, unfortunately, probably isn't going to matter, as you still have bodies hanging around as you're going to be able to clear away. And again, it's going to start pushing the only way with only 2 meters to Shikigami's name.
I mean, they're not going to get shut out at least here, but still not a lot of time left in that time bank either. You have an ultimate ready to go here and a couple that are about to be ready, but still, again, you're just at the same point. Kintsugi has 4 spawns back. You're in the 50-50 fight territory, which, again, Kintsugi can perfectly be happy with for the rest of this map.
Yeah, Rustinero, J-Man barely getting out of there alive. April goes for the chase and gets punished in the process, as you're going to see that bot still being pushed back the other way massively. So even if this is a full-on loss here, it's not going to matter because Santana's just going to commit onto this cart with the rest of their squad. Winter gets one. And so still trying to clutch it up, and honestly, they've gotten rid of 2. They've done what they wanted to do, and all Santana has to do is just stall on this cart, die, and everybody's going to get the forward spawns.
Forward spawn still going to be in their control here. A minute left to go. I mean, it's just, it's going to be a really uphill battle for Shikigami here. I'm not going to count them out of it, though. I've seen wilder things happen, but it is a long way to go. The spawns will be reset. That's just the first thing you have to do. Now you have to win this next team fight. And granted, you have the ultimates to do it here. This downpour, though, it has to be big.
And big it is. Pulse Bomb came out as well. Didn't quite find the mark, but sports are now down. Lich is going to be taken care of, and this should be the first back-to-back fight win coming online here. But Winter still manages to get rid of Crazy Cat, who now is going to have the long walk back from spawn. But finally, Shikigami wins a fight, but it's got to be the first of many.
It's going to be the first of many if they want to win this map or even make it somewhat close here. But Winter, again, just having themselves a map here, able to find picks and losing fights is huge for them now, especially with the time bank ticking down to 0 here very, very soon. I mean, just getting that one pick, it's going to force Shikigami now to really play slow, because right now they probably want to play very aggressively, making sure they win these fights very early on here. This blade, though, from Anu has to be big, and Ewan, the beat, has to come out to really assist them here.
Yeah, beat is out. Anu does not get hit with it, as Anu is probably just going to have to go for broke here in a few seconds, because it's going to get very dangerous very quickly. All the ultimates about to be online. April's going to have a beat, and they're hesitating big time, but they have to simply go for it. Cleanse has been used. Beat activated, and it could just be curtains right now when it comes to this map right here. Lich throwing it back the other way, cutting through one body, cutting two body, cutting through 3 body, clearing it away. Kintsugi going to move over to match point, and Shikigami are at a loss.
Again, it was just a strong start from Kintsugi. Shikigami, they tried to get back into it several times with Kintsugi. They understood what they had to do. They got the cart pushed so far, and we talked about a lot throughout that map. Just taking 50-50 fights. Yeah, you could lose it, but you had such a lead that you didn't necessarily need to worry about giving up forward spawns. And Shikigami, they were able to get something going, but it was just a little bit too late here. But Hunter, like we kind of mentioned, Winter had themselves a map here. They had, I believe it was a 22-23 kill streak before they had their first death. Ended up the map with 30 elims, the most in the game here, and the most damage of any DPS player, just over 8,100 there. As Tracer, I mean, a lot of times you either see Tracers doing a lot of damage or not necessarily getting a lot of damage, but still finding a lot of elims. Well, Winter did both this map. Most elims, highest damage for any DPS player in the lobby. It just seemed like Shikigami really struggled to slow down Winter this map.
I mean, that's what it was. It was this massive struggle to be able to do really anything about the situation at all. It felt like they had something going in the very beginning, and unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere. And it's a shame because we know this team is capable of it, but unfortunately, out the gate here, Kintsugi seemed to keep forcing a lot of this mirror, and unfortunately for them, it's working, and now it's a scenario of they don't need to stop the mirror at all. They can keep it going, which is why I think this is why Shikigami has decided to take Soul through Circle Royale, because it is such a unique map overall. You can run a ton of different things here in a scenario like this. The question is, with first ban being Shikigami, what would you want to get rid of in this situation?
I think you get rid of Hazard. I really do. It's gonna be Farah, though. I understand why you're doing Farah. Farah, this might be one of her best maps in the game, period, at this point. But I think getting rid of the Hazard, yeah, you could say this is not necessarily a map for Hazard, but as it goes on, I think you'll see more and more Hazard get played. Yeah. You expect to see Poke, so that means Sigma, that means Ramatra, but still, Hazard, I think, has been a little bit of a thorn in the side for Shikigami here. You could have got rid of Tracer as well, but again, these teams have been mirroring each other for the first 2 maps, and depending on how this ban goes here for Kintsugi, I feel like there's a chance we could see the same mirror yet again going into our 3rd and potentially final map, outside of like maybe seeing a Widow, a Freya, an Ashe, or Hanzo come out, because Hanzo is starting to now get play on this map.
Yeah, we have seen it a couple times thus far. Whether or not it's going to come out, I'm happy to find out whichever case it's going to be, because Hanzo's one of those characters that, for the longest time, maybe some people didn't quite like the Hanzo, but honestly, Hanzo has a lot of that pick-off carry potential. Before, it was like, oh, we need to play Hanzo on this map because it's shield break. You can basically force the Sigma to put up their shield and it get pretty much almost instantly destroyed because of your storm arrows. Nowadays, while Sigma still gets played on this map, it's not nearly as frequent as before. We see teams that will go towards the Ramatra instead. They'll play with their maze on corners and just play with this aggro style of, hey, they have to walk through, we wall off the tank, we try to obliterate them, rinse, repeat, which we've seen in a lot of our series already this year. But yeah, BAP is a curious choice, but I don't hate the choice because, again, we talked about at the very beginning, Baptiste is a strong character, and this is one of those maps where it might call for like a Bap Zen or a Bap Iliari.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up Zen and Iari, which are two heroes you do see a lot on this map. Make sure you accept the invite. But you see them a lot on this map here, and it's mostly only this map that you see those heroes. However, Orisa being banned out last map, back available again this map. So I would not be surprised to see a little bit of Orisa come out here. However, Sigma, Ramatra would be the two you really expect to see. But just with how these two teams have been playing, honestly, just nothing but Hazard throughout. I would not be surprised just to see them try to potentially force the Hazard out here again, especially if you're Kintsugi. Because, I mean, granted, we were giving Winter a lot of flowers last map, but Santana has been putting on a little bit of a performance as well throughout this entire series.
No, 100% has been putting in a performance, especially over on the Hazard as well. It has been extremely consistent. And the one thing you're able to do as a Hazard, especially when you're going into a character like a Kiriko, is sometimes you aren't necessarily going in for the assassination. You are going in, force out all those cooldowns, so someone like your Genji or your Tracer, whoever it may be, can go in and finish the job. That's sometimes what you have to be as a tank, as the person to get out a lot of those cooldowns. But we're talking before about what teams like to do, and it feels like Kintsugi is following that same path. Ramatra, Mei on this corner. So Aurora, he's going to have to play very carefully.
J-Man coming out on the Freya, though. I like this for them. We know how scary of a hit scan J-Man can be. And going over to Freya, who, again, still right now is strong. I know a lot of people don't play her as much as when she first came out, but still, a lot of burst damage potential, especially with having Anhu and Aurora playing two heroes that if they are able to find a headshot with, especially Anhu, and Aurora can just find so much just burst damage with their rocks.
Yeah, find a ton of burst damage, and now Anhu over on this Mei. Gonna go separation on the Ramatra and Mei on the other side of things, and now all the pressure in the road being thrown in. Winter and Lich, rough scenario. Santana forced to use their form, gets rid of Aurora though. So unfortunately, any momentum Shikigami might have started to get is already down the drain.
Yeah, that's just a bad thing to say, but hey, they have time to reset here. Lich just doing a lot, but hey, Anhu's gonna be able to find one, which is a huge pick-off for them there, but it's not necessarily gonna mean much there. The Ramatra pick, I mean, Ramatra's a hero that used to get a lot of play on a lot of other maps, but I think has now kind of fallen off, especially as what everyone coined block slop has kind of really been negated here lately. But Ramatra, this is definitely probably a map where Ramatra finds the most amount of value, and Mei now will start to find a lot of value as well here.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a freeze online. Anhu got this really quickly, and I don't know if I would know this were the case. And Anhu, unfortunately, I think got out of the block early on accident. I am not sure what the case was, but Hutch stuck momentarily, cleanses themselves. Santana gets another pick. Cleanup coming through is, again, managing to pick on the way out, but Winter's going to get back with plenty of time for a re-engagement.
Yeah, finding Winter out, especially playing the Soj, it's almost like the same thing as finding a Lucio out. They can get back to these fights pretty quickly. It's not the highest value pick, but again, a pick is a pick here. And again, if you're Shikigami, you're just looking for any good opening. You really need to find the first pick here to get something going, because like you said, Anhu has that Blizzard, and I don't know if anyone on the other side would necessarily be ready for it.
Well, they're definitely ready for it now. All things considered is, here we go, popping off. Lich gets rid of Anhu early again, and now Winter looking for some lost souls, has found two of them already. And unfortunately, Aurora is about to be the third. April eventually takes that away as a minute and a half on the board, and Shikigami is at a loss as J-Man is going to match the Sojourn.
And I understand going over to the Soj here. The Freya, I thought could have worked out, but there just wasn't any follow-up there. However, now with Shikigami coming in here, I mean, yeah, they're gonna have ultimates, but look over at Kintsugi. Other than the overclock we just saw come out there, yeah, they have all four of their ultimates ready to go here, and I think you really have to be worried about a lot of them. The Annihilation could just be used to really stall out the cart and make sure you get some ultimates out from the other side as well.
Yeah, because the thing is, Santana and the rest of the squad have no reason to go through this overpass right now. All they have to do is sit here on this cart right here, let somebody come in, as we're going to see the flood come up online. Trying to find some bodies right now as April goes down first and foremost. Aurora obliterated. So now you're going to see if you can try to pull this one back in a 4v4. You're using everything here as Crazy Cat and J-Man popping off. J-Man taking care of three, making it happen, but April with that speed, will they get anybody out here in time?
I don't think so. I think if you're Kintsugi, you might just give up this first point. I don't think throwing your Juno on the point is necessarily going to be anything of value here. So yeah, it's just going to be, they had the Sim TP there for a chance, but just wasn't going to work out for them. Shikigami though, yeah, they had to invest a lot, but they're able to keep the map alive here in the series. And now you see them go over to the Orisa. Like I said, after that first point where the Sigma kind of falls off a little bit, going over to the Orisa for second point push, I really like this, especially as I believe this is the hardest second point push in the game.
I think it 100% is as well. It's going to be a struggle from everything we've seen so far. April going to help the team move in. And Ewan does have a beat sitting by, ready to go, and is going to invest in Aurora. Barely caught within in time, and now Santana trying to block with everything they have within them. Are going to hide around the corner. Winter going to try to clutch up right now, managing to hit a lot of bodies, but eventually Ewan going to be the first one to fall over. Aurora separated away. First fight successfully going to hit over to Kintsugi, as your singular bright side is now they have no ultimates on the table.
Yeah, but that's one of those moments where you look at the block and still say it needs to be just toned down a little bit there, because if Shikigami is able to get rid of that Ramatra, they're able to just do so much more in that fight. Now, though, they really need to get going, and this is always the hardest part about this push. You start pushing that cart up the hill, well, if you lose the fight, guess what? You immediately right back down to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, and J-Man pops salt, and Santana immediately turns over. Rub situation right now for Anhu, who was trying to hang around, and eventually Winter going to finish them off in that cart. Gonna make some slight progression, but unfortunately Aurora and Ewan in such rough scenarios as Ewan gets out, but Aurora is currently cornered, but you don't want to invest here overall. If you're Kintsugi, you back out, take the reset.
And the Curious swap coming out here now for Shikigami, but again, Winter just had themselves an incredible series here so far. Venture now as well coming out here for Kintsugi. But at the same time, you just need to find something here if you're Shikigami. You just need to get a good early team fight win. It doesn't necessarily matter with the first pick, because we've seen them find the first picks here recently a lot, but they just haven't been able to finish a fight. You have some ultimates coming up here, but you just need to get the cart moving here.
Yeah, and now separation being thrown in, everything being thrown in the kitchen sink as Lich back over on the Venture, manages to get rid of J-Man pretty quickly. Ewan gets one on the way out, but it's not going to matter a whole lot. And now you go into the final fight. You don't have the B. Annihilation's around the corner. Aurora and Anhu are going to have to pop off big with their ults.
Those could be two ultimates you really do see get comboed up here. However, the Susan from the other side is going to make it very difficult for Freezes to go through. You have to just get something going here, though. Again, this is your final fight potentially on this round. You need it to go your way, and you cannot lose Anhu early.
Yeah, now Anhu is just getting surrounded right now. Perfect timing. Bodies are on the cart as Freeze being thrown down, and nobody is going to be in effective range. Santana and Winter going to simply run it down, and that is going to be a stop right then and there. And now, this is where the finish line will lay here for Kintsugi. Got to go through first point and then an additional 33 meters, and they will secure a 3-0 victory. And for Shikigami, backs could not be further against the wall.
Here's the good thing for Shikigami. They got that first point, which, Hunter, me and you have definitely seen it in the past. We've had full holds followed up by fuller holds. This is definitely one of those maps where this first point is very difficult to get to. And they were able to get it, all the way up to that first little plateau up the hill. Meaning it's still kind of difficult, but they have to play very close up. Meaning Shikigami does not have that many opportunities after they give up first point. However, like I said, first point is definitely holdable for them, especially if they play a really good sustainable comp. They could come out on that Orisa. They could come out with the Mega. They could come out with a lot here, but no, they're going to be going over to the Ramatra instead, which is, hey, a pick I don't necessarily hate here from them. However, we talked about seeing this hero potentially come out this map, both Widow and Zenyatta. Winter on that Widow and Hutch on Zenyatta. I mean, I think they're really expecting that Aurora was going to come back out on that Orisa. However, it doesn't necessarily matter. That Zenyatta will still find a decent amount of value no matter what Aurora is playing. However, again, Hutch teasing us, going to be going right back over to the Kiri.
Yeah, 100% is, and I think it's probably going to stay this way. Winter out on that Widowmaker is going to be especially interesting going into this one. Just because, again, it's a Widowmaker. You do not want to peek the corner, especially if you're like a J-Man. Yeah, and the only person to peek the corner as Aurora gets pretty heavily headshot as Winter gets a little extra charge. It only results in like 7%, but still, good shot.
And right now, I mean, I like that Shikigami's not playing up on this first corner. They're playing back at the bridge. You see this a lot. Ice wall there, though. They got to be able to cut off Aurora. Aurora very low.
Yeah, really low. Has to use that form right out the gate. Now just have to hold on the corner right here with Anhu. Well, quite a bit of struggles with that man. Fortunately, as Aurora has that form back and try to pull down and get somebody's attention. But right now, Santana's just moving back and forth, having all that speed, move to the speed ring. And now Aurora forced to back out further and further, wants to try to re-engage, find somebody with the punch. But Ewan, again, caught out early. Santana can just sit in there almost for free as the rest of Shikigami is getting destroyed on the spot. And unfortunately, with this death right here, a recontest for first point is already looking nearly impossible.
It's gonna be impossible, but Aurora needed to do that essentially just to make sure that the rest of the team could get those spawns, giving them time to get back out there and contest this card because it's not that far of a distance here for them. However, it's gonna be very, very rough here for Shikigami because they're gonna have to be coming in very, very quickly to get something going here fast.
Yeah, I understand. Santana can get all the pressure in the world, but unfortunately, that block is gonna be a lot to deal with as Aurora is being given everything. Barely surviving though, as Santana is in a very similar boat. Unfortunately, Aurora is the one to follow her first and foremost, and that could be the death toll right here and now. It's going to come down to J-Man sitting around the corner. Boatload shot ready. Kintsugi rush activated. Aurora going to come back over on the ball. J-Man just has to throw it in. He's going to catch onto a couple of bodies. Everyone getting low. One stick, two down. Looking for another, but April is there clutching around. It's Aurora trying to get over to the point. And they can stall for a pretty reasonable amount of time, but Anu has to get back to help out soon.
Aurora trying to do their best, trying to get that large health pack, but not going to be able to get it. And right there, Kintsugi finds themselves in a 3-0 victory, sweeping Shikigami. And Kintsugi, like we said, coming into the series, hey, this was a series that they could definitely use to right the ship here early on in the season. Shikigami, though, like we kind of said going into the Hunter, we talked about this was essentially a game where they had to win or else they basically have to win out to give themselves a shot at playoffs. I'm not saying it's impossible, but they definitely had their opportunities here tonight, just weren't able to capitalize on them a lot, especially after the Runasapi map we saw.
Yeah, it is going to be a rough one for them for the rest of the season. It might quickly become a conversation of simply trying to get out of bottom four, but like you said, anything can happen. You never know. Maybe they win out. Maybe it is a situation with last season, like they did last time. But that was a hell of a run for them to pull off last time. It'd be difficult to pull it off again, but it's a situation where it's never say never. But for Kintsugi, this is the start of what is going to be a very short and very bulked up amount of games that are going to be before them here. And to take a win at the very start of it is really impactful, especially as it feels like as that series continued on, it feels like the difference started to become more and more significant as they kept going forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can look at the stats for these last two maps and just really start to tell where everything really made a difference here. And especially this last map, I mean, you had two members of Kintsugi only die once, Santana and Hutch, and Santana only dying once is huge, especially for them. Being the tank, they were dominant in this final map, 26-1. You compare that to Aurora, it just wasn't a good map for them there. They really struggled, it seemed. Only went 1-10. It was just a struggle for Shikigami, especially really after Runasapi. It seemed like a little bit of a mental boom for them, which does suck because we know the Shikigami team, the players on it individually are incredible players, but right now it just seems like they're kind of in this rut. Granted, though, 8 games down. Now you have the back half of your season to go here. Like I said, it's not impossible. It just becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah, it becomes extremely difficult, and obviously you don't want to see any team go through this. Unfortunately, a few of the teams have to go through this, and it's the unfortunate part about competition, but it's gonna end up happening. To Kintsugi, it might not end up happening. Obviously, again, you don't know what's gonna happen with this one on their backs. They're 2-3 now. After the stretch, they could be 2-7. They could be like 5-4. You don't know necessarily what it's gonna lead to. But to get a win here is impactful. It's momentum they can carry forward into a match against Amplify, which, after what we've seen here today, they should be able to stand toe-to-toe with them. The question of whether or not they can win, because this Amplify team definitely feels stronger than the one from last season.
Absolutely, but I mean, if you have performances tonight from Winter and Lich, I think they're going to be able to go toe to toe with almost anyone. And same thing from Santana. I mean, it seemed like Kintsugi really got their footing under them here. Granted, this was only their 5th game of the season, but I mean, you had stand-up performances from everyone this series. Winter on map 2, you had Hutch and Santana on map 3. Lich and April were just consistent rocks throughout this entire series for them. They were always doing their job and really excelling on it here. I mean, they did incredible throughout the series. This entire team from Kintsugi did just great.
Yeah, no, they did fantastic here today, and that was our first time being able to see this team. One of the only teams we haven't gotten to look at this season, but obviously, with that being the case, there's a chance down the line that we're going to want to look at them a little bit more. But speaking of looking at teams a little bit more, obviously still have quite a week ahead of us here. We got only one game tomorrow going through South America. It's going to be Garfo versus Zenith. For Garfo, I mean, honestly, for Zenith as well, it's a pretty massive game for them both. Garfo could put themselves in a very secure spot in that top 4 potentially, and Zenith needing a big win against a team like that not tomorrow, for Friday. It's going to be a pretty similar case for Zocorp and Pumas. Pumas is in a bit of a rough spot now, and Zocorp is a team that looks like they should be able to have a top 4 spot, but a rough loss to Pumas. I mean, Pumas is one of those teams that has caused a lot of chaos in the past, let's just say, and there's a chance they could potentially do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pumas, they could beat Zocorp. Zocorp has not looked like themselves so far this season compared to what we saw in that playoff run they had. And I mean, right now, Pumas, again, a victory here for them puts them above Zocorp, and Zocorp does have a really rough end of the season for them, to where a loss against Pumas could really jeopardize the rest of their season.
Yeah, it just might. You will. I'm curious to see how that goes down, because Pumas is just that kind of team that can make that chaos happen. One of the teams that is making a little bit of chaos happen, Iliad Artemis taking on Daystar. Daystar, with this squad that was top 2 last season, and Iliad Artemis, who had their struggles for certain, now Iliad Artemis is looking like a top 8 team, and they are fighting like almost like a top 4 team, honestly, from everything we've seen. That should end up being a pretty good matchup, and if it's an Artemis W, I think that propels them confidently into an area where you have to say, this is a team that should make playoff contention, that should push themselves further, because this is leagues above what we got to see from them last season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could always put those monikers on teams, especially after big wins, but for both those teams, I believe that's around their halfway mark on the season for games. Mm-hmm. You never know what happens. We've seen teams absolutely fall apart before, and teams catch fire. So, hey, a lot of action still left to go this season, Hunter.
Yeah, 100%. But in terms of tonight, that is going to finish it up with our double header. Of course, continue to watch this entire week with Faceit League action. That double header on Friday is definitely going to be a lot of fun. And of course, just a single South America game tomorrow, taken at 7:30 p.m. EST. Hopefully, we'll see you there. But if not, have yourselves a fantastic week, and we'll catch you later on.